Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9 Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. The Effect by Huntington-Klein is a practical guide to causal inference, written for readers who want to understand what makes a causal claim credible and how to estimate causal effects with real-world data. Rather than treating statistics as a collection of disconnected tools, the book frames analysis around a single core goal, identifying the effect of a change in one factor on an outcome. Huntington-Klein emphasizes research design and the assumptions that allow causal interpretation, showing how common approaches fit together through a consistent logic. The text is especially known for clear explanations of causal diagrams, identification, and the conditions under which popular methods succeed or fail. It also connects conceptual reasoning to applied workflows, helping readers move from a research question to an estimand, then to an estimation strategy and diagnostics. Whether you are working in economics, public policy, social science, health, or data science, the book aims to make causal thinking more transparent and less intimidating, with an emphasis on avoiding common mistakes that can make results persuasive but wrong. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, causal questions, counterfactuals, and the meaning of an effect. A central topic in The Effect is the shift from describing patterns to answering causal questions. The book frames causality through counterfactual reasoning. An effect is the difference between what happened and what would have happened under a different condition. Because only one reality is observed, causal inference becomes a problem of building credible comparisons. This perspective clarifies why naive comparisons often fail. If people self-select into a program, if places adopt a policy at different times for strategic reasons, or if treatment is targeted to those most in need, then the treated and untreated groups differ in ways that also influence the outcome. Huntington-Klein focuses on making the target estimand explicit, such as an average treatment effect or an effect for those treated, and on identifying what data variation can plausibly approximate the missing counterfactual. The discussion encourages readers to think carefully about timing, units, interference, and how a treatment is assigned. By grounding everything in what an effect means, later methods are not seen as magic tricks, but as structured ways to construct comparisons and quantify uncertainty. Secondly, causal diagrams, confounding, and identification logic. The book highlights causal diagrams as a practical language for expressing assumptions and reasoning about bias. By representing variables and their causal relationships, readers can see how confounding arises when a common cause of treatment and outcome creates a backdoor path. This visualization supports a key idea. Identification is not achieved by running a sophisticated model, but by meeting conditions that block non-causal pathways while preserving the causal pathway of interest. Huntington-Klein uses diagram-based reasoning to discuss when conditioning helps, when it hurts, and why certain controls introduce bias. This includes attention to colliders, selection effects, and post-treatment variables, which often appear in real analyses through convenience controls or algorithmic feature sets. The book also connects diagrams to concrete adjustment strategies, emphasizing minimal sufficient adjustment sets and the difference between measurement and causal structure. Importantly, it pushes readers to articulate assumptions openly, treat them as testable where possible, and acknowledge limits where they are not. This topic equips readers with a way to evaluate empirical strategies before any estimation, improving transparency and making methodological choices easier to defend. Thirdly, regression as an adjustment tool and its common failure modes. Regression appears in many applied fields as the default approach, and The Effect positions it as one tool among many for adjustment under specific assumptions. The emphasis is not on algebraic derivations but on what regression is doing in a causal context, attempting to compare treated and untreated units after accounting for confounders. The book clarifies when this works, typically when the right confounders are measured and appropriately modeled, and when it fails, such as with omitted variable bias, measurement error, bad controls, or model misspecification that distorts comparisons. Readers are guided to think about functional form, interactions, and extrapolation, especially when treated units differ substantially from controls. Another recurring idea is that more controls are not always better and can even be harmful if they open biasing paths or condition on post-treatment variables. The discussion also promotes careful interpretation of coefficients, including the distinction between association and causation, and the need to align the regression estimand with the research question. By reframing regression as a design-dependent method rather than a universal solution, the book helps readers use it more responsibly and recognize when alternative designs are preferable. Fourthly, quasi-experimental designs, matching, instruments, discontinuities, and differences. A major contribution of The Effect is its unifying treatment of common quasi-experimental methods as strategies to approximate randomized variation. The book surveys approaches such as matching and weighting to improve comparability, difference in differences to leverage changes over time, regression discontinuity to exploit thresholds, and instrumental variables to use external sources of variation when treatment is endogenous. Rather than presenting these as isolated chapters, Huntington-Klein emphasizes how each design attempts to solve the counterfactual problem, and what assumptions must hold for identification. For difference in differences, the key is whether untreated trends can stand in for treated trends absent treatment, and the book encourages readers to interrogate that plausibility. For regression discontinuity, the focus is on continuity of potential outcomes around the cutoff and careful bandwidth choices. For instrumental variables, it highlights relevance, exclusion, and the interpretive consequences of identifying a local effect for compliers. Throughout, the discussion reinforces diagnostics and sensitivity checks, like assessing pre-trends, balance, manipulation around cutoffs, and weak instrument concerns. This topic helps readers choose designs that fit their data generation process and communicate their strengths and limitations clearly. Lastly, from research design to workflow, robustness, interpretation, and communication, beyond individual estimators, the effect stresses an end-to-end workflow for credible causal analysis. The process begins by clarifying the causal question, defining the treatment and outcome, and specifying the estimand. Next comes design, deciding what variation supports identification and how to justify the key assumptions. Estimation then becomes a step that implements the design, not the starting point. Huntington-Klein emphasizes robustness and transparency, encouraging readers to probe sensitivity to modeling choices, sample restrictions, and alternative specifications that reflect meaningful threats to identification. This includes thinking about heterogeneous effects, external validity, and whether the estimated effect generalizes beyond the studied setting. Interpretation is treated as a discipline of its own. A statistically precise estimate can still be causally weak, while a noisier estimate from a strong design can be more trustworthy. The book also prioritizes communication, urging analysts to present assumptions plainly, show why the comparison is credible, and avoid overstating what the data can support. By integrating design, diagnostics, and narrative, the reader learns to produce work that is more reproducible, easier to critique, and more likely to inform decisions responsibly. In conclusion, the effect is best suited for readers who need to make or evaluate causal claims using observational data, graduate students, policy analysts, economists, social scientists, health researchers, and data scientists who already run models but want stronger reasoning behind them. It is also valuable for practitioners in business and government who must translate analytics into decisions, where the difference between correlation and causation has real costs. The book benefits a reader's life by sharpening a practical habit of mind, starting with the causal question, explicitly stating assumptions, and choosing designs that make those assumptions plausible. This improves decision quality, reduces the risk of misleading findings, and helps readers communicate uncertainty and limitations with integrity. Compared to many causal inference texts, this book stands out for its unified focus on the concept of an effect and for its emphasis on research design over formula memorization. It connects common methods through the same identification logic and spends meaningful attention on failure modes, which is where many real projects break down. If you want a guide that helps you think clearly, choose appropriate tools, and defend conclusions responsibly, it is worth buying. If you would like to support Nick Huntington-Klein, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.